that, I'd like to introduce Jolie Vega with No Footprint Too Small, one of Lincoln's newer nonprofit organizations, and I'm going to let her tell you about. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Is this working? Yep. Okay. So we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we have an office location on the corner of 48th and A in the lower level of Lincoln Surgical Group. So we obviously serve the Lincoln community, but also the state of Nebraska and some of our services nationwide as well. So in a nutshell, what our organization does is we provide support to mothers, fathers, and families who've experienced pregnancy or infant loss. So at any gestational age during pregnancy up until a year after birth. So just to give you a little bit of background on myself, my last occupations had to do with, I worked in hospice, suicide prevention, so I'm very passionate about companioning people along their grief journey and also supporting those who might be struggling with mental health issues. Those are kind of my passions, and I've been doing this for we publicly launched in April of 2016, so we just turned 2 years old, and we've supported over 300 families in that time period. And to give you some background information on how and why No Footprint Too Small started, when I was 25, I became pregnant with my first child. I have a 6-year-old stepson, but this was my first biological child giving birth to. And during that time period, I was, preoccupied with all typical first-time mother concerns, like, am I going to be able to breastfeed? Am I going to take my child to a daycare center or an in-home daycare? Never once did I have the concern that I would lose my child. I just didn't consider it as a possible outcome. And to be honest with you, I didn't even know what stillbirth was until I went into the hospital at 41 weeks, a week after my son's due date, and realized that there was no longer a heartbeat. After that, my husband and I recognized the painfully obvious gap in care that existed from the time a family leaves the doctor's office, hospital, wherever they gave birth and lost their child, to the time that they go home. We didn't feel supported, and we were blindsided, not even considering that a possibility for an outcome. We expected to take our baby home, not to be planning a funeral. And being younger parents, not being from the area, we felt very unsupported, very alone, and we recognized the need for this type of support in our community because it's relevant within our community, nationwide, worldwide. Just looking at the audience of this size, I can tell you that 1 in 4 women experience miscarriage, so I know that, without anybody having to tell me, that, it's relevant in this room today. And so I'm going to go over some of our services and what we do. And if you'd like to grab a brochure, there's some back by the donuts, but I'm going to just briefly kind of go over what we offer. So first and foremost, we offer doula support to mothers during pregnancies and labor that involve a loss. So for example, sometimes moms like myself will go into their doctor's office or an emergency room or a labor and delivery floor and unexpectedly realize that their baby is no longer alive. Some families have time beforehand to prepare for the loss of their child. A lot of times, families who have a life-limiting diagnosis for their babies usually find out at the 20-week ultrasound that something's not quite right. And in that scenario, we have the opportunity to support the family earlier on during the journey. But if you're not familiar with what a doula does, a doula is a woman who supports a mother during labor and offers physical and emotional comfort. So like changing positions during labor to have a more effective birth, comfort measures to help with pain management like massage and whatnot. So we have trained and certified doulas that not only specialize in birth, but birth and bereavement. So not only those typical ways of supporting a mother during a typical labor, but also offering, the kind of support that they need to, for example, sometimes moms struggle with bonding with their baby. and holding them and making memories. It's very important for the family and the mother, and by family I mean, father, grandparents, anybody who's involved in their support system, to be able to have the opportunity to hold their baby, take pictures, make memories, and just give them the chance to say hello before they have to say goodbye. That wasn't always the case, even 10, 20, 30 years ago. Women who experienced loss back then, they thought that the best thing to do was to kind of sweep the baby away and not, let the mom see the baby, and that really just has a very negative impact on the way that person's grief journey is going to go. We offer a breast pump rental for free. Sometimes moms, either they want to be comfortable, their milk supply might come in, especially with those later term losses, and so we recognize this need because some moms who've experienced loss will tell us that they would call their insurance companies for a breast pump because their milk supply is coming in, and then they'd be denied a breast pump because they don't have a child. So that's a service that we offer to them. So whether they just want to be comfortable when their milk comes in, or whether they want to donate their milk to the NICU, some moms like to do that in honor of their child, we provide that for them. We provide guidance on funeral arrangements or memorial services, ongoing bereavement support, referrals to other applicable resources in our community, so like support groups, counselors who specialize in supporting families during this type of loss, translation services to mothers and families whose first language is Spanish. So one time we were called to one of the local hospitals because there was a Spanish-speaking family who had just lost their little girl, and up until the time we came, they were communicating with the family via computer. And so obviously that's not ideal. It's not personal in such an intimate and heartbreaking time for that family. So we were able to come to the hospital and communicate with them in their native language, which was really awesome. And then a few things that I have that I brought with me that we offer. One of them is our weighted memory bears, and moms sometimes report that they physically ache to hold their child. It's like that physiological need. I mean, you've been with your child for months, carrying your child, and then you no longer have them. And studies show that moms actually ache in their chest or their arms to hold their baby. So one of the things that we offer are these memory bears, and they can be made out of onesies, receiving blankets, any sentimental material that the family might have. But if the family doesn't have any material, like for example, sometimes if it's an earlier term loss, they might not have started buying clothes and whatnot, so they might not have anything, or they might have, not have a lot of items, so they don't want to give it up. So we can provide the material for them. But these are actually weighted to the birth weight of their baby. And then on the heart, there's the baby's name, birthday, and birth weight. And so these are one of our most requested forms of support, and the amount of comfort and healing that these offer grieving moms is just amazing. I'm going to pass these around so you can feel what they feel like. Another thing that we offer are our care packages, and both of these things can be requested online, and they can be requested by the bereaved parent, or if you have somebody in your church congregation or a coworker or a neighbor, an acquaintance, anybody can request a care package or a weighted memory bear on somebody else's behalf. But our care packages, and I won't pass this one around, but they're comprised of different items that are specific to the type of loss somebody has experienced, as well as the makeup of the family. And what I mean by that is that, so if they have a younger surviving sibling, we include a book that's an age-appropriate way to talk about the loss. There's also some mementos in there, like a little pair of angel wings. This box comes with it as well, so they have a place to store the little mementos that they have from their baby, whether it's clothes or ultrasound pictures or whatnot. So that's also another really popular form of support that we offer. And then I always tell people that although I've experienced my own loss, I continuously learn from the families that we support because everybody's experience is unique with different diagnoses and loss at different periods of time with the pregnancy. And so some of the services we offer, for example, the breast pump rental, we recognize that need from what other families have told us. And one of the needs that we learned about, I think it was probably last year, was actually from 2 different grandmas. And they shared their stories about loss for the grandchildren. And there's 2 different stories here, but one of them, the grandma was saying, my daughter was so preoccupied with wanting to keep her baby warm. And her baby weighed maybe around a pound. Well, preemie clothes are, made for babies that are up to 5 pounds and up. And so naturally, it's our motherly instinct to want to just keep your child warm. Offer them dignity and love, and even if they're not living. And so the grandma said she, scrambled down to the gift shop, and there wasn't anything that would fit her baby. And so we recognized a need there, and so we started creating these little swaddles and donating them to the hospitals that they can place earlier term lost babies in. So they have something that's their size, that's in these fun patterns. It's the only opportunity these families get to, dress up their child, that they can wear to the funeral home in funeral services. And so it's a very practical need that wasn't being met until now, which is very surprising, but it makes sense. And then we also offer, hats, and like I said, these things are very practical, like being stretchy, for example, so they're not stiff. That's something else that we provide, and we donate those to the local hospitals and funeral homes. Basically anybody who has a need for them, we can donate them to. Another story we have was from a grandma, and she said, I'll never forget, I was with my daughter when she miscarried in the emergency room, and they just placed the baby on a paper towel on the counter. And that was traumatizing for that grandma, and understandably so, and I'm assuming for the mom as well. And so we started just simply making these little squares of cloth, and all these do is just offer dignity to that child and let the parents know that we're acknowledging that that's a life and it's important and significant. So we also donate these to the hospitals, because with those earlier term losses, for example, if the baby was 17 weeks along, it might be 3 inches long, and the swaddle is not practical for babies that are that small. Another thing that we offer is burial gowns, and these are really special because these are actually made out of wedding gowns that are donated to us, and they come in all different sizes, and parents can use these in the hospital or to bury their children. And again, we provide them to the hospital and funeral homes and whatnot. Again, just practical. They don't have a lot of buttons or long sleeves or anything that's going to be difficult to dress a little baby that size, but I'll pass that around as well. And we can usually make 30 to 40 of those from a typical wedding dress.
How many of those do you go through in your?
Well, I don't know if we can estimate how many we go through, but we donate a box that's maybe that size of our care package box or bigger to each hospital. So I don't really know like the rate that they're used at, I guess I would say. But so that's kind of what our organization does. We also started hosting support groups that are specific to pregnancy and infant loss this year, which is very exciting. And we're also doing a retreat in the fall. And we host many events throughout the year, specifically for those families who've been impacted by pregnancy or infant loss. So for example, on June 8th, we're gonna have a special Father's Day event at the Salt Dog Stadium, because a lot of the times, especially first-time parents, they might not be acknowledged as parents if their first child was a loss or they're continuously experiencing loss. So if you follow us on Facebook or visit our website at nofootprinttosmall.com, you can kind of keep in the loop with the different things that we're doing. And also, we're a part of Give to Lincoln Day. Does anybody not know what Give to Lincoln Day is? Is anybody unfamiliar with that?
What day is that again?
It's on May 31st. So just in case anybody isn't. So Give to Lincoln Day is a day where basically everybody in Lincoln participates in charitable giving to their favorite nonprofits. And I think last year, I don't know, maybe they raised like $4 million. It's a significant amount of money going back into our community, and it's really exciting. And we're participating. This will be I think it'll be our third year in a row participating. So if you feel inclined to do so, you can donate to us on our website, and it'll redirect you to the Give to Lincoln Day page. Or I think it's just givetolincoln.com/NFTS. Do you guys have any questions that I can answer?
What kind of matching is that?
Sorry?
Do they do matching?
Yes, so the Lincoln Community Foundation has a $400,000 match fund, and we get a proportional percentage of that match fund. So just for the sake of easy math, if there was $100,000 raised and we accounted for 1% of that, we'd get 1% of that $400,000 match. Mm-hmm.
Actually, I think you can start giving now. I think you can give
Yep.
a month.
Yes, sorry about that. So the actual Give to Lincoln Day is on May 31st, and we're going to be like down at Tower Square, and that's kind of when all the excitement is. But you can donate throughout the month of May.
Julie, what's the biggest source of your revenue for your foundation? Do you have a special event that you do, or is it just a donation?
The majority, which is pretty awesome but also nerve-wracking, is the community. A lot of donors giving a little bit. We're also seeking grants in more long-term sustainable fund development, but we do have our annual fundraiser in August. It's going to be on August 2nd, and it's been at James Arthur Vineyard the last 3 years, so that's kind of our big fundraiser that we have every year. But we also have smaller fundraisers throughout the year. Like, for example, we're going to have one at Panera in June.
So wedding dresses, do I just bring it to you?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yep, and you can, my contact information is on the back of the brochure, and my business cards are back there as well. So, yeah, just reach out and we'll set up a time to meet.
Do you make those little gowns yourself?
Not myself, our volunteers.
Are you always looking for volunteers to knit and sew?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
We have a pretty big group of volunteers who knit, sew, crochet, so, yep.
I know you said that you provide Spanish translation services. I was wondering, since you're a nonprofit, because there's such diversity in Lincoln,
Yes.
if you would be eligible to participate with like community action or a similar program, because for translation services, they provide translators, and I think some are trained in medical translation as well.
Oh, I'll have to look into that. That would be a great resource, because you're right, there's a lot of diversity.
Do you have to be trained to know medical translation, or
Do I?
you buy one volunteer?
I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't say so. Mm-mm. And what language do you speak?
Mandarin.
Oh, okay. Wonderful. Any other questions, sir?
So you provide, the funeral home to be familiar with your services, and so is there a way of getting kind of partnership with them, or a lot of people that they want to do a funeral, they're contributing to some cause or something, you might be a candidate for that.
Yep.
Is there any kind of work kind of partnership with those guys?
Well, a lot of the funeral homes in town have our brochures on hand, and we do try to facilitate those types of relationships and give them presentations and whatnot. I've probably gotten into maybe 5 funeral homes in town, I would say. And we like to, be very intentional about networking in a broad range of businesses and organizations, because ideally, we want to be proactive about getting in touch with these families, because the sooner we can support them after the loss, the less likely they are to, experience long-term challenges related to their grief down the road.
Are hospitals and/or doctors pretty good about calling you, or is it still kind of a hit and miss kind of?
It's kind of a hit and miss, just because there's different kind of red tape regarding HIPAA and whatnot, but we're kind of working on the idea of having a release so that way the doctors and hospitals could provide a release saying that they give permission for us to contact that family, because right now as it stands regarding the medical professionals, the family have to reach out to us. And if the family doesn't have any reason to think that they're going to have a loss, then they might not be likely to know about us in time for them to give birth. Yes?
My wife and I have experienced a loss, but also we have 3 daughters that were premature, one born at 32 weeks, under 3 pounds, and then twins born at 28 weeks, under 2 pounds. So we spent altogether over 7 months in NICUs. One of the things that really bothered me about that whole process was seeing babies that didn't have. My wife was there every single day. Mm-hmm. Seeing babies that didn't have anybody there. They were given up by the mother or anything like that. Have you guys ever thought about doing outreach? Because it's like the kangaroo care and things that we learned about, like getting volunteers to go out and do outreach to just hold babies and things like that. Or is there like HIPAA things that you can't, if it's not your baby or something like that? Because developmentally, I think that something like that would really help.
Yeah, you're right, it would. I mean, there's tons of studies that show the importance of nurturing in the NICU, and my daughter was in the NICU for only a week, but that really opens up your eyes to what families go through in the NICU, especially ones who spend so much time there. It's like Groundhog's Day every day, right? It's exhausting. I have not looked into volunteer opportunities for that. I'm not sure how that works. That's something I'd be willing to look into, even personally. There is an organization in town called Connected Forever. They kind of focus a little bit more on the NICU side of things, but also incorporate loss. Their founder had a loss. She had twins. One of them passed away. One of them lived and spent some time in the NICU. But as far as volunteer opportunities with like visiting those babies and stuff, I haven't personally looked into what qualifications and stuff that they have regarding that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes.
Have you connected with like Lincoln OG, and the midwife hospital?
Yes, we are very actively keeping in touch with the different OBGYNs in town. We've presented to all of them except for one so far. So we continually, drop by flyers and brochures and let them know about our different events and whatnot, so we can stay at the forefront of their minds.
Could you tell us a little bit about your experience starting a nonprofit and how you navigated that?
Yeah, so it's been a really steep learning curve for me because I didn't know anything about starting a nonprofit or running one. The first step I took was meeting with a nonprofit attorney, Brett Ebert, down at Baylor and Ebnon. And that was a big help for just getting like the legality of things, and she continues to be a big help. She serves on our board now, but just learning how to be an established nonprofit, how to get your 501c3 recognition and the importance of that. It's been very challenging at times. Sometimes it kind of feels like swimming upstream as a nonprofit. But I've really recognized the need and the importance of networking. And with our subject matter, I think at first I was kind of honed into networking with different organizations and individuals where it seemed obvious to make a relationship, like with the doctors and midwives and whatnot. But now I recognize, because it's so relevant of subject matter, that just coming to things like this or being a part of Centersphere is very important, and that's kind of been an eye-opener and very beneficial to our organization as well.
How many people are involved, how many
Well, we have myself, I work full-time, and then we have 2 part-time outreach coordinators, Georgie being one of them. And we have a group of, I would say, probably about 35 volunteers.
How did you hear about this meeting?
How did I hear about this meeting? I think it's because I actually knew Gabrielle Volkmer, who was a doula and a childbirth educator that was in the Focus Suites with Birth Beyond Bias. Yes.
What are your plans for growing your nonprofit? Do you plan, right now it sounds like you're kind of mainly in Lincoln, but do you plan to spread this statewide, countrywide?
I would like to first get a solid foundation in Lincoln. I think we're doing a really great job at networking and being known for a good resource for what we do. But I think our main concern right now is developing a plan to obtain that long-term sustainability financially. Grants are really competitive, and they just have so much criteria. And as a newly established nonprofit, I feel like you constantly have to earn your keep. And so that's kind of our main goal right now. But long-term, I would love to offer more of our services across Nebraska. For example, the care packages, the weighted memory bears, the swaddles, those types of things obviously can be shipped, statewide and nationwide as well. But I would like to have a No Foot for Too Small representative in at least the major different areas in Nebraska, ideally.
Those would be a great fundraiser.
Yeah, have you thought about having, like, I've never been on your website or anything, but just, like, offering those fairs for, I'm sure there's information on it, just as a fundraiser to sell them online.
We do
Something like that.
request a minimum suggested donation to kind of help offset the costs. So for example, the bears are $35 suggested donation, and the care package is $15. And they're valued at much more than that, but they kind of just help with the costs associated. I mean, a care package or a bear can cost up to $15 alone just to ship, but not necessarily as a fundraiser yet.
Well, have you thought about putting it up on your site for people around the country to be able to, okay, I've had a loss, are we able to connect with you and get something like that?
Yes, it is open on our website. Anybody can request. Right now, we did limit our bear request to only Nebraska residents because the demand was just way too high, and our volunteers couldn't keep up. And as of right now, we do like to keep the majority of our support in Nebraska. And for the care packages, we can send them out nationwide. So if you have a family member or a friend that's not located here, we can send them a care package, but it is modified to include less things. So there's a lesser cost associated for out-of-state support. Yes?
Have you encountered other organizations doing something similar that you were able to learn from, partner with at all around the country?
There's a lot of different organizations around the country that kind of have the same mission of providing support to families who've experienced pregnancy or infant loss, and I feel like they all have different areas of focus within that or different kind of specialties. So for example, like I mentioned, Connected Forever in Lincoln, and then there's Healing Embrace in Omaha, and we all kind of have the same, similar missions, but I feel like we offer different services from each other. For example, we offer doula support and Connected Forever doesn't, or we offer weighted memory bears and they don't. They specialize in kind of NICU losses and we don't. So I think that there's definitely the opportunity to partner and learn from each other as well. Yes?
I just want to encourage everybody to like you on Facebook and to share you to your friends, because if it's an early term one, you might not even know that they're going through it.
Right.
And it's very private and awful things, so if you share it, and they might know about you.
Yeah, and you brought up a really great point. Throughout this experience, I've learned that everybody kind of has a unique struggle within pregnancy and infant loss. You know, having a baby with a life-limiting diagnosis is different from having a stillborn baby or having an early-term miscarriage. And one of the unique struggles that those who experience earlier term loss is that typically people wait until, you know, the first trimester is over to announce that they're pregnant. Well, statistically speaking, most of the losses, the majority of them, occur within the first trimester.
So if a couple hasn't announced that they're pregnant in the first place, they're probably not going to announce that they've had a loss. So some of these couples are like returning to work and school and church, and you know, kind of silently suffering with what they've experienced. So that's a good point. And even with a population that we've been able to reach that I didn't intentionally set out to reach, was older couples who've experienced loss 20, 30, 40 years ago, and were never encouraged to talk about it and didn't have the opportunity to acknowledge and celebrate their baby. And to me, that is heartbreaking, because I couldn't imagine feeling like I had to hide that my son existed. That would just, I don't know, you know, but so that's another population that just simply sharing our website, you know, those ladies might not be interested in receiving some of these types of things anymore, but they might. But they also might just find comfort in following our page and reading some articles and just finally getting that opportunity to acknowledge their baby.
I lost my first son was stillborn, and we didn't even see him. I never saw him. And so when you were encouraged not to name him, all kinds of things. And I mean, I've worked through all of that, but it was kind of a lonely time. I mean, and our families lived in another state and that type of thing. So I'm glad that my heart just sings when I hear you talk.
Have you connected with the churches?
So that's something that's kind of on our to-do list. We've got a list of different organizations and whatnot to seek out, and that's one of them. We've connected with a few different churches, but obviously there's tons of churches in Lincoln, so we do want to. And you know, if you guys belong to any like MOPS groups or church organizations or clubs, we do presentations basically to anybody who will have us.
Got time for one more question?
Can I brag on Jolie?
You bet.
I hope. And just to kind of piggyback on what someone was saying about the different groups and what you can learn from them and how are we different from other groups. I don't know if you all are familiar with the Inspire Awards in Lincoln, but they recognize women in the community that have kind of risen up and become trailblazers. And out of hundreds of nominations, Jolie was nominated for a Founders Award and was with a group of Matt Talbot Kitchen and also Milkworks. And it just really speaks to the need, the gap that was in the community. And these awards were, how long ago were they? Were they last year? Last year, like, so the organization had only been formed for about a year and a half. And the gap was so wide and the organization was so needed that quickly the recognition was there. And so I just want to brag on her because she would never do that for herself. She's very humble. And so I just think it's amazing what this organization does for the community. And you can absolutely be proud and confident to recommend us to anyone.
Jolie, thank you very much. We want to give you one of our Focus Suite mugs, and you're running your own organization. I'm sure there'll be caffeine. But I do hope that if you have it in your heart to do so, that you will like them on Facebook, follow them, check out their website, give an email newsletter.
Yeah. Yep.
Sign up for their email newsletter. I was in my 40s before I found out from my mother that I should have had a younger brother. She lost a child between my sister and I. So there are, like you said, there's a lot of people in the audience right now that have been touched by this issue. So thank you so much for being here. Please hang around as long as you like. Ask more questions of Jolie or Georgie, and I'm sure you guys will be hanging around a little bit. And so don't run off. If you can hang around and network and exchange